Hi everyone, and welcome to the second biology lesson on body systems. This lesson today is on the circulatory system. Again, you will need a pen and some paper to complete today's lesson. So if you don't already have them in front of you, please go and collect them now and pause the video. The challenge for today's lesson is to describe how the heart is structured, and the aspire is to describe the components of the blood and explain what each part does. So from last lesson, you should have an idea what the circulatory system is. So today's starter is I would like you to write down on a piece of paper what you think the circulatory system is made up of. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Off you go. Okay, so remembering from last lesson, you all should have written that the circulatory system is made up of the heart and blood vessels. If you named blood vessels such as the artery, veins, or capillaries, then you would be correct. And the whole point of the circulatory system is that the blood that's contained within it delivers nutrients and other essential materials to our cells and removes waste products. Okay, so I'm first going to introduce to you the heart. Now, a heart is a very strong muscle. What I'd like you to all do now is put your fingers in the center of your chest where your breastbone is. And what I'd like you to do with your hand is roll it to the left-hand side and make a fist. That is thereabouts where your heart is located in your chest. Now, your heart is a very strong muscle. It's a muscle that is responsible for keeping all of the blood flowing around your body. And the human circulatory system is actually made up as a double circulatory system. So it has two separate circuits, and the blood passes through the heart twice, but in one full circuit. So one side of the heart pumps blood to the lungs, and if you look at the diagram, that is in blue, and the other side of the heart pumps the blood to the rest of the body, and that is in red. Now I have a question that I would like you to think about, and I'm going to give you again about 30 seconds to think about this question. The question is, why is one half of this diagram in blue? And the hint is your blood is never blue. So why is it shown as blue on the diagram? So I'm going to give you 30 seconds, think about it, and write down some answers. Off you go. So the answer to the question is the blue section on the diagram represents deoxygenated blood, and that's blood that has very little oxygen in it. The red section of the diagram is showing blood that contains oxygen, that is oxygenated. So I'm now going to talk you through how the heart pumps blood around your body. So firstly, your heart, so if we look at the diagram on the blue side of the heart first pumps blood to your lungs. And there, the blood picks up oxygen from the air that you breathe in. We now say that this blood is oxygenated. This blood, now carrying oxygen, then travels back to your heart. And this now is the red side. The heart then gives the blood a second push, and this time it pushes the blood all the way around the body to all your various organs and tissues. The blood then travels back to the heart, and then the whole system starts again. So now we'll look at the heart in a little bit more detail. The first thing that I want to point out to you is that if you look at the diagram that is on the screen, the left and the right are not the same left and right as if you look at them. How I remember it is the left-hand side of the heart is the left side as if it's in me. And the right side is the right side as if it's in me. So it's the opposite way round than what your left and right would normally be. Now the heart has 4 main chambers. It has 2 chambers at the top, which are slightly smaller, the left and the right atrium. And it has 2 chambers at the bottom, the left and the right ventricle, and they are slightly larger. Now, I have a question for you. The left-hand side of the heart is slightly thicker than the right. And I want you to think about the diagram that I just showed you on the previous slide about where the blood in that side of the heart goes to. And I want you to think why this might be. So why might the left-hand side of the heart be thicker than the right? So I'm going to give you 30 seconds again to write down some ideas. Off you go. So hopefully you have realised that the left-hand side of the heart has to pump blood to the entire body. And remember, the right-hand side of the heart only pumps blood to the lungs. And remember, the lungs are situated more or less next to the heart. So the left-hand side of the heart has a much bigger job to do. It has to give the blood a greater push. So that's why the heart muscle on the left-hand side is greater than the right-hand side. So now I want to talk to you about your heart beating. Your heart rate is the number of times your heart beats per minute, and this will change depending on your daily activity. A normal heart rate is between 60 and 100 beats per minute when you are resting. Now I have a question. How does your heart know when to beat? What I would like you to do now is I would like you to just jot down for me a few ideas as to what you think your heart does to make it beat. So I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. Off you go. So the answer to the question, how does your heart know when to beat? In your heart, you have a group of cells that are located in the right atrium. That is shown as a yellow star on the diagram, and that controls the natural rhythm of the heart. If for whatever reason this group of cells fail, people can be fitted with something called a pacemaker, and this may be something that you have heard before. And a pacemaker can be fitted and it will control and regulate the rhythm of the heart. So the next part of this lesson is to look at the blood. The blood is a tissue that is made up of lots of different cells. The blood contains the following 4 parts. The first part is the plasma. The second part are platelets. The third part are white blood cells. And the fourth part are red blood cells. Now, in a laboratory, we can use a special machine called a centrifuge. And this is a machine that spins blood really fast, and it can separate it out into all its individual components. And if you look at the diagram of the test tube on the right hand side, you will see that the majority of the blood is made up of the plasma, which is a straw-coloured liquid, and the red blood cells. Now, if we look at these individual parts of the blood in more detail, you can see that the blood plasma is a straw-coloured liquid, and it makes up just over half, 55% of the blood content of the body. And the plasma transports all of the components of the blood. The other part, which might be familiar to you from the last lesson, are the red blood cells. And if you remember that they transport oxygen from the lungs to all the organs and tissues in the body. The third part of the blood are the white blood cells. The white blood cells form part of our immune system, which defends us against diseases. So our white blood cells attack any pathogens such as bacteria or viruses that enter our body and destroy them. The final part of our blood are platelets. Platelets help our blood to clot. So when we cut ourselves, eventually we will stop bleeding, and that is because the platelets in our blood will form a barrier between us and the outside, and this will stop any pathogens from entering our bodies. Right, so now let's do a quick quiz. So for this, you're going to need your pen and paper. So the first question is to name the 4 components of the blood. So write that down on your pieces of paper now. Okay, the next question is, what do red blood cells do? Okay, the next question is, what does the plasma do? Okay, next question. Why are the white blood cells so important? And the last question. What do platelets do? Okay, let's go through the answers and mark your work. So, the answer to question number 1, what is the blood made up of? The blood is made up of the plasma, platelets, red blood cells, and white blood cells. Question number 2, what do the red blood cells do? They transport oxygen to our cells. Question number 3 was, what does the plasma do? The plasma, remember, is the straw-coloured liquid that transports all of the components of the blood. Question number 4 is, why are white blood cells so important? And they are important because they are involved in our immune system and they help to fight pathogens such as bacteria and viruses and destroy them so we do not become poorly. And the last question was, what do platelets do? And platelets, remember, they are responsible for clotting the blood. So this is now a summary of today's lesson. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to get a pen and some paper, and I'm going to ask you to make some notes on today's lesson. So today you have learnt that the heart is a muscle which pumps blood to the lungs to get oxygen and then pumps that oxygenated blood around the body. The heart has 4 chambers. The top 2 chambers are the left and right atrium, and the bottom 2 chambers are the left and right ventricles. The pacemaker in your heart is situated in the right atrium that controls the heartbeat, and the blood is made up of 4 components, which are the red and white blood cells, plasma, and platelets. So can you please get a pen and some paper, and I'm going to give you 4 minutes to write down these summary notes. If you need any time after these 4 minutes, please pause the video. Okay, the last thing to do today now is to go and complete the Google quiz. Please make sure that you complete all the multiple choice answers, and please make sure at the end of the lesson you submit your scores. If any of the questions ask you for more than one answer, please make sure that you tick more than one answer. And then the very last question, again, that you will do will just require a little bit of research on the internet to be able to complete that question. You can then write that question in the box on the Google quiz, and your teacher will be able to look at it for you. Thank you. Bye.